There is a reason you have never been taught this. There is a reason schools avoided it. There is a reason your parents never whispered these words into your ear. Because what you are about to hear does not create obedient citizens. It creates architects of human behavior. It creates men who walk into rooms and shift the gravity of every conversation without raising their voice. 5 centuries ago, a man sat in exile, stripped of power, tortured by the very state he served, and instead of breaking, he wrote. He wrote the most dangerous manual on human influence ever created. A book so threatening that the church banned it. A book so precise that kings studied it in secret while condemning it in public. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli. And today, you are going to learn what he discovered about the invisible architecture of power. Not the power of thrones. Not the power of armies. The power that moves through eye contact. The power that hides in silence. The power that makes one man memorable and another man forgotten. This is not theory. This is the operating system of influence that has shaped empires, corporations, and the quiet men who control both. Now here is where I need to stop and speak directly to you. If you are watching this and you are not subscribed to this channel, I need you to understand something. You found this video because something inside you is searching. Searching for an edge. Searching for understanding. Searching for the keys that others seem to hold but never share. This channel exists for men like you. Men who refuse to sleepwalk through life. Men who understand that knowledge is not power until it is applied. But here is the painful truth. Most of you will watch this video, nod your head, feel that spark of recognition, and then click away. You will forget. You will return to the same patterns. You will let this wisdom dissolve into the noise of your feed. And months from now, you will wonder why nothing has changed. The men who rise are not the men with the most information. They are the men who commit. So right now, before we go any further, I am asking you to make a decision. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me. For the version of yourself that you are trying to become. Every time you see our videos appear, it will be a reminder. A signal. A call back to the path you chose today. Do not let this moment pass. Subscribe now, and let us continue this journey together. Lesson 1. Influence begins before you speak. Most men believe that power lives in words. They think charisma is something you perform. They rehearse clever lines. They practice comebacks. They search for the perfect thing to say. And this is precisely why they remain powerless. Machiavelli understood something that modern men have forgotten. The most influential moment in any interaction is the moment before the first word is spoken. Think about it. When a man enters a room, a calculation happens in every mind present. It happens in milliseconds. It happens beneath conscious awareness. And it determines everything that follows. Are you someone to be respected or dismissed? Are you a threat or an opportunity? Are you worth attention or safe to ignore? This calculation is complete before you open your mouth. So what determines it? Not your words. Your presence. Presence is the silent language of influence. It speaks through posture. It speaks through the pace of your movement. It speaks through the quality of your attention. It speaks through what you do not do. Watch a man who commands influence walk into a room. He does not rush. He does not scan nervously for validation. He does not immediately seek to fill silence with noise. He arrives. Fully. Completely. As if the room adjusted to him rather than the other way around. This is not arrogance. This is the physical expression of internal certainty. And it cannot be faked because the body does not lie. The first lesson of Machiavellian influence is this. You must become someone worth listening to before you ever attempt to speak. And that becoming happens in the quiet work you do on yourself when no one is watching. The books you read. The discipline you build. The fears you face alone. These invisible investments compound into visible presence. And presence is the foundation upon which all influence is built. But here is where it gets uncomfortable. And I want you to really sit with this for a moment. Ask yourself honestly. When you walk into a room, what do people feel? Not what do you hope they feel. Not what you tell yourself they feel. What do they actually feel? Is there weight to your presence, or do you blend into the background? Do people lean in when you speak, or do their eyes drift? This is not about ego. This is about honest assessment. Because you cannot fix what you refuse to see. Comment below with one word that describes how you currently show up. Just one word. Be honest with yourself. That honesty is the first step toward transformation. Lesson 2. The man who speaks first loses. There is a reason interrogators let silence stretch. There is a reason negotiators wait. There is a reason the most powerful person in any room often says the least. Silence is not the absence of influence. Silence is influence in its purest form. When you speak first, you reveal. You show your position. You expose your desires. You hand the other person a map of your psychology. But when you wait, something remarkable happens. The other person begins to fill the void. They start talking to escape the discomfort. They reveal more than they intended. They negotiate against themselves. Machiavelli observed this dynamic in the courts of Italy, where words were weapons and silence was armor. He watched ambassadors destroy their own positions simply because they could not tolerate the weight of an unanswered pause. He watched princes gain everything by saying nothing at the moment when speaking seemed required. The modern world has forgotten this wisdom. We live in an age of noise. Everyone is broadcasting. Everyone is explaining. Everyone is filling every second with content and commentary and reaction. And in this environment, the man who can hold silence becomes extraordinary. Not awkward silence. Not passive silence. Strategic silence. The silence of a man who is listening deeply. The silence of a man who is observing before acting. The silence of a man who understands that every word he speaks should earn its place. Here is a practical application. In your next important conversation, make a conscious effort to pause 3 seconds longer than feels comfortable before responding. Watch what happens. Watch how the other person reacts. Watch how the dynamic shifts. You will feel the urge to fill that space. That urge is your programming. Override it. In those 3 seconds, you are not doing nothing. You are communicating that you are a man who considers before he commits. You are communicating that your words have weight. You are communicating that you are not desperate for the interaction. And this changes everything. Lesson 3. Never outshine the master. This is perhaps Machiavelli's most misunderstood teaching. On the surface, it seems like advice for cowards. Hide your light. Diminish yourself. Let others take credit. But this interpretation misses the deeper strategy entirely. What Machiavelli understood is that human beings are creatures of ego, especially those in positions of power. They did not reach their position by being humble. They reached it through ambition, through competition, through the need to be seen as superior. And when someone beneath them displays too much brilliance too quickly, they do not celebrate it. They feel threatened by it. And threatened people become dangerous people. History is filled with talented men who were destroyed not by their enemies but by their allies. Men who made their superiors feel inadequate. Men who solved problems too elegantly. Men who received praise that should have flowed upward. These men confused being right with being strategic. They won battles and lost wars. The master of influence understands a different path. He makes those above him feel more intelligent in his presence. He positions his victories as extensions of their vision. He builds their confidence while quietly accumulating his own power. This is not weakness. This is the long game. The goal is not to be recognized. The goal is to become indispensable. And there is a profound difference between the two. The recognized man is visible, which means he is also a target. The indispensable man is essential, which means he is protected. Think about your current situation. Think about the person who holds power over your career, your opportunities, your advancement. Now ask yourself this question. Have you been making them feel smarter, or have you been making them feel challenged? Have you been building their confidence, or have you been subtly competing? Your honest answer to this question might explain a great deal about your current position. Lesson 4. Study the target before the approach. Machiavelli was obsessed with intelligence. Not intelligence in the sense of cleverness, but intelligence in the sense of information. He believed that influence without information is gambling. And gambling is for men who enjoy losing. Before any significant interaction, the strategic man studies. He learns what the other person values. He learns what they fear. He learns what they hunger for. He learns the wounds they carry and the victories they cherish. He learns who has influenced them before and how. He learns their patterns, their rhythms, their vulnerabilities. This is not manipulation in the sinister sense. This is respect. It is taking the other person seriously enough to truly understand them before attempting to move them. The amateur walks into a room hoping to impress. The master walks into a room already knowing what impression will resonate most deeply. In the age of social media, this intelligence gathering has never been easier. People broadcast their values constantly. They tell you what angers them. They tell you what inspires them. They tell you what they wish to be seen as. All of this is data. And data is the raw material of influence. But most men never use it. They are so focused on themselves, on their own message, on their own needs, that they never pause to truly study the person they wish to influence. This is why they fail. Before your next important meeting, spend 30 minutes researching the person you will encounter. Not just their resume, their interviews, their social media, their public statements. Look for patterns. Look for values. Look for the story they tell themselves about who they are. Then craft your approach to align with that story. Watch how differently the interaction unfolds. I want you to pause here and think about someone you have been trying to influence without success. A boss, a client, a partner. Now ask yourself honestly, how much do you actually know about what drives them? What are their deepest fears? What is their greatest aspiration? If you cannot answer these questions, you have found the source of your failure. Comment below if this realization just hit you. Sometimes the truth arrives like a sudden light in a dark room. Lesson 5. Create dependency through value. Fear is one path to influence. Machiavelli acknowledged this. But he also understood that fear is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance. It creates enemies who wait for the moment of weakness. It builds influence on a foundation that crumbles the instant power wavers. There is another path. A more sustainable path. A path that creates willing followers rather than reluctant subjects. That path is dependency through value. When you become the source of something others desperately need, you do not have to demand their attention. They give it freely. When your presence solves problems that others cannot solve, you do not have to fight for position. Position finds you. When the value you provide is so unique that it cannot be easily replaced, you do not have to worry about loyalty. Self-interest ensures it. The question then becomes, what value do you provide? And this is where most men fail the test. They believe they are valuable because they work hard. But effort is common. Anyone can work hard. They believe they are valuable because they are reliable. But reliability is expected. It is the minimum threshold, not a distinguishing feature. They believe they are valuable because they care. But caring without competence is just warmth without utility. True value is rare. True value solves problems that keep people awake at night. True value provides access to resources, knowledge, or connections that others cannot obtain on their own. True value makes life genuinely better for the person receiving it. The strategic man audits his value constantly. He asks himself, what do I provide that others cannot easily get elsewhere? He asks himself, what would happen if I disappeared tomorrow? He asks himself, am I truly essential or merely convenient? These are uncomfortable questions. But they reveal uncomfortable truths. And uncomfortable truths are the only truths worth knowing. Lesson 6. Control the frame, control the outcome. Every interaction happens inside a frame. The frame is the invisible context that determines what things mean. The same words can be an insult or a compliment depending on the frame. The same action can be strength or weakness depending on the frame. The same request can be reasonable or outrageous depending on the frame. Whoever controls the frame controls the interpretation. And whoever controls the interpretation controls the outcome. Most men do not realize that frames exist. They enter interactions passively, accepting whatever frame the other person establishes. They find themselves playing by rules they did not create, in games they did not choose, for prizes they do not want. The master of influence operates differently. He consciously chooses his frames before every significant interaction. He decides in advance what context will serve his purposes. He enters with his frame already established, already solidified, already emanating from his presence. Here is an example. Imagine two men applying for the same job. The first man enters with the frame of someone who needs this position. His energy communicates, "Please choose me. I hope I am good enough. I need this opportunity." Every question he answers carries the subtle vibration of desperation. The second man enters with the frame of someone evaluating whether this company deserves his talents. His energy communicates, "I am here to discover if we are a mutual fit. I have options. I am selective about where I invest my abilities." Same interview. Same questions. Radically different outcomes. The first man has handed the interviewer all the power. The second man has established equality or even subtle superiority. Frames are established through voice tone, through body language, through the questions you ask, through the assumptions your statements carry. They are established in the first 30 seconds and then reinforced throughout the interaction. You can shift a frame that someone else establishes, but it requires conscious effort and social skill. Far better to establish your own frame from the beginning. Think about this. What frame do you usually carry into important interactions? Are you the one seeking approval or the one granting it? Are you the one with options or the one with needs? Your honest answer to this question shapes every outcome in your life. Lesson 7. The illusion of choice is more powerful than no choice at all. Human beings have a fundamental need for autonomy. They need to feel that their decisions are their own. They resist obvious control. They rebel against perceived force. This is why direct commands often fail while subtle guidance succeeds. The master of influence understands that he should never take away the feeling of choice, even when he is directing the outcome. Instead, he presents options that all lead to his desired destination. He creates the illusion of freedom within a carefully constructed architecture. Think about how this operates. A man wants his colleague to support his proposal. The amateur approach is to argue for the proposal directly, to list its benefits, to push for commitment. This triggers resistance. The colleague feels pressured. He looks for reasons to disagree. He asserts his autonomy by finding flaws. The strategic approach is different. The strategic man presents 3 options to the colleague. Option 1 has obvious weaknesses. Option 3 is clearly too risky. Option 2 is the original proposal. The colleague evaluates. He exercises his judgment. He chooses option 2, feeling intelligent and autonomous. The same outcome is achieved, but now the colleague feels ownership over the decision. He will defend it because it is his choice. This principle extends far beyond business. In relationships, in negotiations, in any situation where you need buy-in from another person, never demand. Never command unless you have overwhelming power and no need for willing cooperation. Instead, architect choice. Design the options so that every path leads somewhere acceptable to you. Let others feel the pleasure of deciding while you enjoy the reality of directing. I want to pause here and ask you something. Have you been trying to force outcomes in your life? Have you been pushing when you should have been guiding? Have you been demanding when you should have been designing? Comment below with a situation where you realize you could have used this approach. Sharing clarifies thinking, and clarity accelerates growth. Lesson 8. Master the art of strategic generosity. Most men think of generosity as a moral virtue, something you do because it is right, something you do without expectation, something pure and selfless. Machiavelli saw it differently. He saw generosity as a tool, perhaps the most powerful tool in the influence arsenal. When used strategically, generosity creates obligation. When someone receives a gift, a favor, a kindness, something shifts in them. They feel the weight of debt. They experience the discomfort of imbalance. They are psychologically primed to reciprocate. This is not cynical. It is simply accurate. Human beings are wired for reciprocity. It is one of the deepest social programs running in our psychology. We feel uncomfortable when we owe. We feel compelled to restore balance. The strategic man uses this by giving first. But here is the subtlety. The gift must feel genuine. The generosity must seem unconditional. The moment it appears calculated, it triggers suspicion rather than obligation. The moment it seems like a transaction, it loses its power. This requires skill. You must give without any immediate ask. You must give in ways that demonstrate genuine attention to the other person's needs. You must give in ways that are costly enough to be meaningful but not so extravagant that they create discomfort or suspicion. And then you must wait. The obligation you have created does not expire quickly. It sits in the other person's psychology, waiting for the moment when you need something. When that moment arrives, you will find doors opening that should have remained closed. You will find cooperation where you expected resistance. You will find that your earlier generosity has been earning interest in the bank of human relationship. But there is a warning here as well. Strategic generosity only works on people capable of feeling obligation. There are those who take endlessly and feel nothing. They are not wired for reciprocity. They are wired for exploitation. Learning to identify these people quickly is essential. Give to them and you simply drain yourself. The master of influence studies his targets before deploying this tool. Lesson 9. Become comfortable with being disliked. This is where most men fail. They have been conditioned since childhood to seek approval. Their mother's smile meant safety. Their father's nod meant acceptance. Their teacher's praise meant they were good. This conditioning runs deep. It is almost impossible to eradicate entirely. And it is the greatest obstacle to true influence. Because influence requires you to take positions. Influence requires you to set boundaries. Influence requires you to sometimes disappoint people. Influence requires you to prioritize your outcomes over their feelings. And all of this triggers the ancient fear of rejection that lives in every human body. Machiavelli understood that a leader who tries to be loved by everyone will be respected by no one. The desperate need for approval makes you predictable. It makes you manipulable. It makes you weak. Someone who knows you cannot tolerate disapproval has found your leash. They simply tug it whenever they want compliance. The strategic man cultivates tolerance for discomfort. He practices sitting with disapproval without crumbling. He learns to distinguish between necessary connection and desperate need. He understands that some of the most influential figures in history were deeply polarizing. They inspired intense loyalty in some and intense hatred in others. But they were never ignored. This does not mean you should seek to be disliked. That would be foolish. It means you should not avoid necessary actions simply because they might generate disapproval. It means you should be willing to say no when no is required. It means you should be willing to stand alone when standing alone is correct. It means you should audit your decisions and ask honestly whether you are choosing based on strategy or based on the childhood wound that still screams for everyone to like you. Here is a question for you. When was the last time you said yes to something when you should have said no, simply because you wanted to avoid someone's disappointment? When was the last time you softened your position because you sensed tension? When was the last time you betrayed your own interests to keep the peace? Comment with your honest answer. These patterns only lose power when they are brought into the light. If you are still with me at this point in the video, you have already proven something about yourself. You have proven that you are not like most viewers who click away at the first sign of depth. You have proven that you are serious about this work. And if you are serious, I need you to take one more step. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. Make the commitment concrete. The algorithm will try to distract you with 1,000 other videos. Your own mind will try to convince you that you will remember to come back. You will not. Unless you subscribe right now. This is not about me growing a channel. This is about you creating a structure that supports your growth. Subscribe now. And let us continue. Lesson 10. Never appeal to mercy when you can appeal to self-interest. This is one of Machiavelli's most practical insights. When you need something from someone, you have two options. You can explain why you deserve it. You can describe your suffering. You can appeal to their compassion and hope they are moved. Or you can explain why giving you what you need serves their interests. You can show them what they gain. You can frame your request as an opportunity for them. The first approach positions you as weak. It puts you at the mercy of their mood, their values, their capacity for empathy that day. The second approach positions you as an opportunity. It activates their self-interest, which is always awake, always attentive, always looking for advantage. Human beings are predictably selfish. Not necessarily in a cruel way, but in the basic biological way of prioritizing their own survival and success. When you align your needs with their interests, you are working with human nature rather than against it. Your request becomes easy to grant. Your proposal becomes attractive. Your presence becomes valuable. The amateur makes the mistake of assuming that others should care about his struggles. He believes that sharing vulnerability creates connection. And sometimes it does. But in the realm of influence, vulnerability without strategic value is simply weakness. It invites exploitation rather than assistance. It reminds the other person that you are someone who struggles, someone who might become a burden, someone whose association carries risk rather than reward. The master always asks himself before making any request, how does this benefit the person I am asking? If he cannot answer that question compellingly, he either changes his approach or abandons the request. He never expects people to act against their own interests simply because he wishes they would. Lesson 11. Timing is the invisible dimension of influence. You can have the perfect message delivered by the perfect messenger and still fail completely because the timing is wrong. Timing is perhaps the most overlooked element of influence. We obsess over what to say and how to say it. We rarely consider when to say it. But when is often more important than what or how. A request made when someone is stressed will receive a different response than the same request made when they are relaxed and generous. A proposal presented after a success will land differently than one presented after a failure. An idea introduced when the need is acute will penetrate differently than one introduced when the status quo feels comfortable. Machiavelli wrote extensively about timing in the context of political action. He observed princes who moved too early and were crushed by forces they had underestimated. He observed princes who moved too late and found their window had closed. He observed the rare prince who seemed to feel the moment, who acted when conditions were ripe, who understood that readiness is everything. How do you develop this sense of timing? First, you must slow down. Most men act impulsively because they are driven by their own urgency. They feel the need and they move immediately. But the other person does not share your urgency. They have their own rhythm, their own concerns, their own optimal moments for receptivity. Second, you must observe. Pay attention to the moods and patterns of the people you wish to influence. Learn their cycles. Learn what precedes their good moods and their bad moods. Learn what opens them and what closes them. Third, you must cultivate patience. Patience is not passive waiting. Patience is active readiness. Patience is holding your move until the moment is right, even when your ego screams for immediate action. The impatient man is controlled by his own needs. The patient man controls the flow of events. Lesson 12. Use selective honesty to disarm your target. Complete honesty is a policy for saints. Complete dishonesty is a strategy for fools. The master of influence operates in the vast territory between these extremes. He uses honesty strategically. He deploys truth as a tool. Here is the principle. When you are unexpectedly honest about something, especially something that might disadvantage you, you create the perception of total honesty. You disarm suspicion. You build trust rapidly. And once trust is established, you have far more room to maneuver. The key word is selective. You are choosing which truths to reveal and when. You are not lying. You are not deceiving in the crude sense. You are simply controlling the flow of information to create advantage. Consider a negotiation. The amateur hides all weakness, projects false confidence, pretends he has no constraints. The strategic man admits one genuine limitation openly. Perhaps he acknowledges a flaw in his offer. Perhaps he shares a real concern he has about the process. This admission seems to cost him. It seems to give the other side an advantage. But what it actually does is far more valuable. It establishes him as honest. It makes the other side trust his subsequent statements. It lowers their guard. And now, anything he chooses not to reveal remains hidden behind the smokescreen of his apparent candor. The truth he shared buys cover for the truths he conceals. This is not about being dishonest. It is about understanding that total transparency is neither possible nor strategic. Everyone conceals. The only question is whether you conceal consciously with purpose or unconsciously without strategy. Lesson 13. The power of withdrawal. There is a paradox at the heart of influence. The more you pursue, the more you repel. The more you grasp, the more slips through your fingers. The more available you make yourself, the less valuable you become. This is because human beings are wired to desire what is scarce. We assign value based on availability. We pursue what retreats. We take for granted what is always present. The master of influence understands this and uses strategic withdrawal as a tool. He knows when to step back. He knows when to create absence. He knows when to let others feel the vacuum that his presence usually fills. Think about this in personal relationships. The partner who is always available, always responsive, always reaching out creates a dynamic where they are taken for granted. Their attention has no value because it is guaranteed. But the partner who occasionally withdraws, who creates mystery, who has a life that does not orbit entirely around the other person, that partner maintains attraction. Their attention means something because it is not automatic. The same principle applies in professional contexts. The employee who is always eager, always responding immediately, always saying yes gradually trains others to undervalue them. But the employee who is occasionally unavailable, who has boundaries, who must sometimes be pursued rather than taken for granted, that employee is perceived as valuable. Their compliance means something because it is not guaranteed. This does not mean playing games. It does not mean manufacturing artificial distance. It means having a genuine life that does not depend entirely on any single person or opportunity. It means being willing to walk away. It means understanding that your absence can sometimes communicate more than your presence. Here is a challenge for you. Think about a relationship in your life, professional or personal, where you sense you have become too available, where you feel taken for granted, where your attention has become so constant that it has lost its value. What would happen if you withdrew slightly? What would happen if you created a small absence? Comment with your thoughts. Sometimes the greatest power move is the one you do not make. Lesson 14. Convert enemies into instruments. Most men treat enemies as problems to be destroyed. They see opposition as something to eliminate. They spend enormous energy trying to defeat those who stand against them. But Machiavelli saw a different possibility. He saw that enemies could be converted into tools. He saw that opposition, properly handled, could become assistance. There are several ways to achieve this. First, you can make peace so generous that it converts genuine hostility into genuine alliance. When you offer terms that exceed what an enemy expected, you create cognitive dissonance. They came prepared to fight. They built psychological structures that cast you as the villain. And now you are offering them something valuable. That dissonance is uncomfortable. Often, it resolves into reassessment. They begin to see you differently. They become invested in the new relationship because it cost them their old narrative. Second, you can position yourself so that your enemy's interest aligns with your interest. You do not change their nature. You do not change their animosity. You simply arrange circumstances so that serving you also serves them. Their self-interest does the work that your persuasion could not. Third, you can use an enemy as a foil to strengthen your allies. A common enemy binds groups together. It creates tribal identity. It motivates action. The strategic man does not always eliminate his enemies. Sometimes he preserves them carefully, using their threat to maintain cohesion among his supporters. The point is that opposition is not simply a problem. It is raw material. It is energy that can be redirected. The question is not how do I destroy this, but how do I use this? And that shift in question changes everything about how you respond to resistance. Lesson 15. The performance of emotion without submission to it. Machiavelli observed that effective leaders displayed emotion strategically. They showed anger when anger served their purposes, not when anger arose spontaneously. They showed warmth when warmth opened doors, not simply because they felt warm. They performed the appearance of feeling while maintaining internal control. This is one of the most difficult skills to develop. Human beings are emotional creatures. We experience feelings constantly, and those feelings want to express themselves. They push toward our faces, our voices, our bodies. Controlling this expression while still using it strategically requires tremendous self-mastery. Consider anger. When someone insults you, the natural response is to show anger immediately. That anger feels righteous, feels like strength. But what does it actually communicate? It communicates that the other person has the power to destabilize you. It communicates that your emotional state is in their hands. It communicates that you can be triggered. The strategic response is different. You feel the anger. You acknowledge it internally. But you choose whether to display it based on whether displaying it serves your purpose. Sometimes displaying anger is correct. Sometimes it establishes a boundary that needs establishing. Sometimes it demonstrates that certain behavior has consequences. But the key is that you are choosing based on strategy, not reacting based on impulse. The same principle applies to positive emotions. Enthusiasm, excitement, affection. These can be powerful tools when deployed strategically. They can make others feel valued. They can create energy around projects. They can build connection. But when they pour out of you without control, they can also signal desperation, neediness, and lack of discrimination. The master of influence experiences emotion like anyone else. He simply interposes a layer of strategic consideration between feeling and expression. He asks, will showing this serve my purposes before he allows the display? Lesson 16. Build structures that work without you. True influence does not require your constant presence. True power does not depend on your continuous effort. The ultimate achievement is to create structures, systems, and relationships that advance your interests even when you are not actively managing them. This is what Machiavelli called lasting foundations versus personal foundations. Personal foundations depend on your charisma, your effort, your daily involvement. When you stop working, they stop working. When you leave, they collapse. You are not a leader. You are a performer. And performers are exhausted by their own indispensability. Lasting foundations are different. They are systems, alliances, processes, and structures that continue to function because they are properly designed, not because you are constantly present. They include other people who are invested in the same outcomes. They include arrangements that benefit multiple parties and therefore sustain themselves. They include habits and expectations that persist through their own momentum. The man building lasting influence asks different questions than the man performing daily influence. He asks, how can I make this work without me? He asks who else benefits if this succeeds. He asks what system would make this automatic. He asks what structures outlive individuals. This perspective shift is essential. Because if your influence requires your constant presence, you have not built influence. You have built a prison with yourself as both guard and inmate. The truly powerful man can step away. The structure he has built continues to serve his interests. He is free. Here is a question that might reveal something important. What have you built that would continue working if you disappeared tomorrow? What structures have you created? What systems have you established? What alliances have you forged that serve mutual interests? If your honest answer is nothing, then you have discovered your next priority. Lesson 17. The strategic use of reputation. Reputation precedes you. Before you enter any room, before you speak any word, before you make any move, your reputation has already shaped expectations. It has already influenced how your actions will be interpreted. It has already determined, to a significant degree, how much power you carry. Machiavelli understood that reputation is not merely the result of actions. It is a tool to be deliberately crafted. You can shape what people expect from you. You can cultivate specific perceptions that serve your purposes. You can build a reputation that opens doors before you even knock. What reputation serves influence? It depends on context, but certain elements are almost universally useful. A reputation for keeping your word, for following through on commitments, for being more capable than you reveal, for being dangerous to cross but rewarding to ally with, for having principles that you actually hold. These reputations are cultivated through consistent action over time. Every interaction either reinforces or undermines them. Every choice either builds or erodes. And the strategic man thinks about reputation impact with every significant decision. But reputation is also fragile. What takes years to build can be destroyed in moments. A single betrayal can erase a decade of trustworthiness. A single failure of nerve can demolish a reputation for courage. A single act of pettiness can undo years of magnanimity. Therefore, the strategic man guards his reputation with paranoid intensity. He avoids situations that might compromise it. He addresses threats to it immediately. He understands that reputation is not just a result of who he is, but a resource that protects and advances his interests. Lesson 18. The power of appearing ordinary. There is a final paradox in the Machiavellian approach to influence. The most powerful position is often the position that does not appear powerful. The man who seems ordinary, who seems like just another participant, who seems to have no particular agenda, that man has extraordinary freedom of movement. When you appear powerful, you attract resistance. Others see you as a threat. They form coalitions against you. They scrutinize your every move. They look for weaknesses to exploit. Your very visibility becomes a burden. But when you appear ordinary, you move through the world with far less friction. Your intentions are not examined. Your movements are not tracked. Your influence can spread without triggering the immune response that obvious power provokes. Many of the most influential people in history were not the ones with titles. They were the advisors behind the throne, the strategists in the shadows, the counselors whose advice shaped decisions but who never appeared to decide. They understood that the appearance of power and the reality of power are not the same thing. And often, they move in opposite directions. The man on the stage is visible, celebrated, and constrained. The man in the wings is invisible, unknown, and free. This does not mean you should avoid all visibility. There are contexts where visibility is necessary. There are goals that require public presence. But it does mean you should question the assumption that influence requires recognition. Sometimes the greatest influence is exercised by those whose names will never be known. Sometimes power is preserved precisely by its invisibility. The final lesson. We come now to the end of our time together. But this ending is really a beginning. Everything you have heard today is worthless if it remains theoretical. Ideas that are not applied are just entertainment. They provide a pleasant feeling of learning without the actual transformation that learning should produce. Here is what I want you to understand. Machiavelli did not write to create scholars. He wrote to create practitioners. He wrote for men who would act in the world. He wrote for men who faced real opponents, real obstacles, real consequences. And that is who you are. You are not sitting in a seminar discussing abstract concepts. You are living a life where influence matters, where the ability to move others shapes your success, your relationships, your impact. So the question is not did you understand? The question is will you apply? Will you begin tomorrow with conscious attention to your presence? Will you practice silence when you previously would have filled the space? Will you study your targets before approaching them? Will you craft your generosity strategically? Will you design choices rather than demand compliance? Will you withdraw when withdrawal creates value? Will you build structures that outlast your effort? Will you guard your reputation as the asset it is? These are not theoretical questions. They are practical decisions. And they are decisions you will make one way or another. The only question is whether you make them consciously or unconsciously. Whether you design your approach or stumble through by accident. Whether you become a student of influence or remain its unwitting subject. I want to leave you with one final thought. The man who masters influence is not a man who manipulates others for selfish gain. That is a shallow reading of Machiavelli and a shallow understanding of power. The man who masters influence is a man who can make things happen in the world. He is a man who can bring his vision into reality. He is a man who can protect those he cares about. He is a man who can build things that last. He is a man whose life becomes an expression of intentionality rather than a series of reactions. That is what influence really offers. Not the petty pleasure of controlling others, but the profound satisfaction of controlling your own destiny. If this video has meant something to you, if you have found value in these ideas, then you have a choice to make right now. You can click away and let this become another video you watched once and forgot. Or you can subscribe to this channel and commit to the path. Every video we create is designed to take you further. Every lesson builds on the last. Every insight is crafted to give you more capability, more clarity, more power. But we can only help you if you stay connected. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. And the next time you see our video in your feed, you will remember this moment. You will remember this decision. You will remember the man you are choosing to become. The path of influence is not walked alone. It is walked with those who share your vision. Subscribe. And let us walk it together. Comment below with the phrase, "I choose power," and let me know which lesson resonated most deeply with you. Your engagement creates community. Your reflection creates growth. And your commitment creates the future you deserve. Until next time, move with intention. Speak with purpose. Influence with wisdom.